Hello all, and welcome to the zoo.
Why am I here?
Minions of the Zoo is a lovable ragtag group of misfits that sprang up initially as a fan group to Ranting Monkey, Scribe-Light, Some Dumb American, and their joint Lords of the Night livestream show. Late night discussions in Discord quickly evolved into streams of their own, with each member bringing something new and different to the table for discussion. Led by the incomparable Reject PPC and the One-Ton Hammer, the group rotates hosts known as Zookeepers.
Hello everybody and welcome to Minions of the Zoo. I am your host for this evening, One-Ton Hammer.
I will be your zookeeper tonight, Reject.
Alright, and welcome to the zoo. I am the Lucky Pop-Tart.
Inquisitor?
Sanguine.
Skep Tock.
I'm Prospero.
Fat Platypus?
Chaosy.
And I'm Della Hazed.
Regular streamers, they're known as minions. And special guests are known as traveling exhibits. They're on a nightly basis, so that each show has something unique and fresh for our audience. Minions of the Zoo currently streams at 10:30 Central Standard, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the zoo. The minions with me this evening, in fact, the minions with me in person this evening, are Adam.
Hello.
Donkey.
Good evening, one and all.
And at various points you might hear Inquisitor popping in and out. He's currently off in the other room painting. And of course, as it is once again a Friday, it is my evening, and I am the keeper for this night, Sanguine. How are both of you doing tonight?
I've been enjoying the last 2 weeks of being down here.
Yep.
I think the proper way. Hold on. Just because it's bothered me as somebody who's running the. Somebody please give me a response on is our audio coming in nicely?
Hopefully it is.
But I will say, yes, with agreeing with Donkey, the last few nights of eating Sanguine's food, holy shit,
Hey,
delicious.
as much as Sanguine's food's been good, don't discount Indianapolis and Fuyuan.
Oh, you don't have to bring up food.
Shame on you. But yes, there has been much happening over the past few days, week, however you want to look at it, as there was the second annual Minions meetup thus far, which included my portion of it, a camping trip, complete with all sorts of different foods, from a very simple night of just some gyoza, some chili crisp, and a bit of spiced shoyu, all the way up to a full-blown Japanese curry.
Oh, I want more of that curry.
Yes, it was very fucking good.
That curry fucking hit the spot.
Like, if it wasn't as spicy, I would have eaten that entire pot, probably.
Oh yeah.
Not gonna lie, you probably could have added one more of those little peppers.
Little Thai chilies.
I think one more would have been okay.
Why? Is that your anti-Eeyore thing?
It's not anti-yours. I love spicy.
Fair enough.
The spice is delicious. Also, it prevents you from eating the entire lot of it.
Yeah, I get that. And even with the spice.
Yeah, even with the spice, I had like fucking 4 bowls of it.
Between 2 settings, yes.
Whoa, Jake. Sorry. Yes, we are hanging out at Quiz's place at the moment. So, Quiz is
Okay, you.
Quiz is painting at the moment. But Jaco is standing guard and making sure that the zoo is properly protected. So you might hear some barking.
Yep.
But it's okay. That just means everything is safe.
Indeed.
But on the camping trip, we had quite a fantastic time.
The first day was sort of slow, more because we were late getting in.
Yep.
Second day, more hang around the campsite sort of day, but Quiz and I got a game in.
Yep.
Oh, there was also the wine tasting,
Yep.
seeing everything. That wine tasting, jeez.
Yeah, we had to run out and grab a few things on the second day, so we went to a grocery store in the area, as well as we hit up a local distillery and winery. So we got to have a wine tasting, and then Inquisitor and I think you had something as well. Oh no, you didn't have something.
I would have loved to try their cherry gin, but I was in no position to do so.
Hey,
Fair enough.
Dude, Jacob wants up on the couch.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I apologize. I can't hook up the cam to set up for a J cam.
And who wants to see my ugly bug on stream?
Yeah, I was about to say, especially since currently Eeyore is
It would be fixated on Eeyore with.
all over Jake at the moment.
But come on, you know.
You just see him fucking owl-eyeing the
Eeyore is a
cameras.
handsome man, and he deserves to be on camera.
I only owl eye when I wake up.
Bullshit.
Look.
You frequently owl-eye. For anyone that doesn't know what owl-eyeing is, it's when you're just staring blankly straight at something as if you were an owl.
Oh, Spudgun. Spudgun, isn't he English?
Yes, he's from the
Like
UK.
proper English?
Yes.
Okay. Spudgun says wine tasting equals pretentious people's piss up.
When it is done in a very traditional wine tasting manner, I absolutely agree. When it's done in the no, fucking drink that shit, don't go spitting out good drink, it becomes far less hotty-toddy and far more just good shit.
I mean, I felt like it was just a round of drinks at the bar.
Yeah.
Hey, and you know what? The bartenders are pretty nice on it. You know, they're like, "Oh, you wanted the spooky mummy drink that?" I don't know. I think Quiz had that, and you know, she was like, "Oh yeah, just pour it on there." And she was telling me, "Hey, yeah, you want this?" She was the only person who didn't ask me for an ID.
Yeah.
Oh, good lord. Let's not bring up that bit of Minions lore just yet.
I don't fucking like that.
You don't want to bring up the government issue ID?
No.
Government issue IDs.
Good lord. Yeah, the last 2 weeks, a lot of, at least this, Minions lore in general, actually.
Government issue ID, 12 fluid ounces, 3-inch charges.
Demons in the toilet.
Yes, the toilet demons. The pant shitting tree.
Oh,
They've already heard about the pant shitting tree. We don't have to tell them again.
I don't know. That is just a funny story that I think could be told nearly endlessly. Then there's also the continued lore of the Mace of the Midwest Minions.
Oh shit, dude! Is it in your car?
Yep. So
Make sure you get it to me tomorrow.
Yep.
So I can at least do a doodle on it.
Yep. So for those who remember last year's lore, the Mace of the Midwest Minions is of course the relic that allows you to defeat Gremlin Granny, who goes around stealing other people's logs for their fires, as well as biting off people's fingers and toes and spitting out flies to be her eyes and ears around the woods in upper Wisconsin.
We saw plenty of flies.
Yep.
The minion. There was Granny's fucking.
Yeah, Gremlin
Slide.
Granny knows that we have the Mace of the Midwest Minions. So Gremlin Granny keeps tabs on us.
Why do you think that she kept us oblivious to going left to find firewood right away? We had to go right and go all the way out and do the honor system
Yep.
in fucking Wisconsin. Dude. Gremlin
Also,
Granny.
that is something that is rather impressive. Wisconsin has the honor system when it comes to certain venues for purchasing firewood. So it was just a sign that said, firewood is this amount of money. A rusted over metal box that you stuff the cash within. And a skiff that had all of the wood that you could just grab. And Wisconsinites just went, yeah, people will pay, and then grab the appropriate amount of wood. Which we, granted, did. But at the same time, it baffled our fellows from Chicago.
Yeah.
Our Canadian was even slightly baffled by it.
I just didn't expect to see it here.
Yeah?
It's weird. You wouldn't expect somebody to be like, hey, here's a box that you can toss some money into and, take a log of woods.
Yeah?
Or a section of woods. A chunk of woods.
People tend to learn that that doesn't work that well when it comes to even just take one bowls for Halloween. How many little shits will dump the entire fucking bowl into their bag?
I'll even admit, when I see a take one bowl, I'll just one handful.
See, I am the most fucking law-abiding, it seems, because when I see a take one bowl, I take one! One fucking piece of candy. Not a handful, not one handful of candy. It didn't say take one handful, it said take one. So I took one.
Hey, I'm just admitting that that's how I...
Admitting your thievery of the festive candies.
Thievery?
Yes. You are told to take one, not take one handful. So when you took one handful, you were going well beyond what you were allotted. You were taking that which was not due to you.
Yeah, that's not cool, dude.
Why do I feel like I'm being castigated like a school child?
Because this is very similar to when you go to the grocery store.
You are in the House of Inquisitor, so it's
Oh,
only
no.
right that you be put under the Inquisition.
Yeah, and when you go to a grocery store, where do you put the cart?
Back in the return, because I'm not a savage.
Cart return?
Either A or in one of the little canopied stalls that are dot the parking lot.
That's what
Yeah.
the cart
So
return
you're
is.
good.
Oh,
So, listen,
when I hear car
anybody-
return, I think the card corral.
Like all
near-
the way up in the store.
Yeah.
You think in the store.
One or the other.
What about you, Adam?
I always put it where it needs to be, and I would implore anybody who's watching our show to do also. Also, I think this is a good time to shout out to our advertisements.
Raid Shadow Legends! No, sorry, what?
Well, you're right. Raid Shadow Legends! But also, the Sansu 2 cents. And God bless them on their anniversary. I think it was their 5-year anniversary in marriage.
I guess.
No, that's...
So,
He's being a
we're still trying to get their blessing on their spices. But yeah, Raid Shadow Legends.
Raid
and,
Shadow Legends.
And
Excuse me, do you have a time to talk about our Lord and Savior, Raid Shadow Legends?
I was gonna say some pillows or mattresses or something like that.
Oh.
Or comforters. Isn't there? Was that?
Are you
guy-
going for the ghost mattresses?
Yeah, Mike. Wait, Ghost. I was going. MyPillows.com.
MyPillow.com
Yes, there's...
and Pillow Cube.
I want to
That's
say
the
it's
other big
ghost
ones going on.
Oh
mattresses.
yeah, I've seen the cube pillows.
Yeah.
They got cubes.
Pillow cube, because the gap between your head and your shoulder is not the shape of a standard pillow. No, it's the shape of a cube.
Dude, didn't you understand that ancient Egyptians slept on cubes?
They slept on the ceremonial headrest.
Unbelievable.
Which was a cube.
But that's the end of our.
Well, it's just an elevated
Yeah.
platform.
Eeyore, how you doing?
I'm doing quite good, thank you.
Awesome. I just needed to check in with you to make sure he's okay.
Make sure that he's still alive.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys could see me. If I fall asleep, Adam will just bonk me with his canteen. I'm not going to fall asleep on
No,
the
no,
stream.
it's
Hold
still
on, dude.
alive,
You're
not
supposed
still
to be
awake.
using my real name. You're supposed to use my fucking on-stage name.
And what does it say? Okay.
Veggie.
Mr. Veggie the First. It's a Mr. Veggie the First, thank you.
Mr.
No,
Veggie the first.
Mr. Veggie the First is my father.
What? Yeah, I'm the first.
Look at me. Look at me.
Look at me.
I am first.
And
Oh,
first
no.
now.
How do we go here?
But, yeah, clearly the right answer is, at the very least, you throw it back into the corral. And a good chunk of the time, I'll take it back to the proper in-store area of the carts. And a good chunk of the time, the moment that I start walking out, I'll push the cart back into the in-store area. Then I'll take my bags and just farmers walk them out to my car. It is only the completely reprehensible that leave it in random other locations. Though I do have a question. When you return it to the cart return, do you just wing that sumbitch into the cart return corral, or do you place it gingerly?
I'd have to organize a stack between mine and at least 2 more in front of it.
Okay,
You
so
know,
if,
create a good stack of 3 at least.
so if there's carts in there, then you slot them in proper.
Yeah, if they're sorted together already, I'm not going to spend 10-20 minutes completely doing it.
Okay.
Well, no, it sounds like you would have spent 10-20 minutes just explaining that you would put the cart right back into the position that it needed to be into. But that's okay. That's what I would do, is I would put the cart right there.
Where it belongs.
I love doggy.
Do you ever just wing it in? If it's if the cart corral's empty, do you guys just wing it in?
No. I pick a corner, typically the left corner. There it goes.
Well,
Okay, yeah, I'll just throw it in, and I will throw it in with some force. I want to hear that clang in the back of the corral as the cart hits.
First off, I don't go to these areas often enough to interact with it. But when I do, yes, I think it's a slight spurred moment. I'm not full spurred. I don't know if I'm full spurred, but yeah, probably not. Like you think you don't. You can't fucking say that on the stream, but
Donkey had to deny as
you have to fucking. No, you're not getting the dunk. Thanks, Donkey. Do you know that? Do you want to? Hey, hold on.
donkey gatekeeping spurgery.
Hold on, Donkey.
We have to gatekeep spurgery.
Donkey, do you like NBA?
NBA?
Like basketball?
No.
Okay, no.
Well, I've already told you the reason why I don't like new spurred diagnoses.
They've widened that terminology so much that you have several other forms of autism lumped in with it.
Well, technically, with the current range and the current spectrum, as I like to refer to
Of
it,
ASL, yeah.
it
No,
includes normal.
Yeah.
It includes every single motherfucker on the planet.
Hold on. I'm questioning now if I'm a spurred, but I'm reading this caption from an Englishman, and of course, you know, England has their peculiar or particular.
The queer
dialect.
use.
Yeah. Spudgun goes, "Yep, you can wing it if it's empty. That's sort of the trade-off." If
That's your
there.
evil side. There is just this.
Yeah, you just wang it into the back of the corral and you get that nice clang.
Put that back in normal. If empty, you get the freedom to wing it in.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
It means that you push it in as hard as you can.
So long as you're putting that cart back, you are free to just jam it in there as hard as you want.
But
So-
where does the ego come from?
I
If
don't know where the ego comes from.
well, it's slightly ego to see how far you can
I mean, there's
throw
ego
the
for
cart
that, yeah, I
back
guess.
in so it clangs real nice and loud. Because when you just wang it back in, you don't just push it so that it kind of goes in. No, you hurl that sumbitch into the back so that it hits the metal bar, and you get that nice clang.
Yep.
And it comes out the entire way.
Can I just say that you guys...
We're
Harmonized on
No,
it?
yeah, you harmonized very nicely.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
I mean, we both understand the satisfaction of that sound when you get a near empty, and okay, I will say I am tempted to just give her a little shove at the end when I get her in the corner, just for a little one.
Yep. Yeah, I'll just absolutely
Send
throw
it.
that
You'll just
son of a
send
bitch in there so that I get the nicest, meatiest clang in the back of the fucking cart carousel. If there is not a single other cart in there. If there is another cart in there, then I'll have to slot them in proper and push them in all the way.
But if it gets that good vibration, and it gives that good, like, because, okay.
It's too much work if there's other cards in there.
Well, no, it's not that it's too much work. It's that I would feel like an asshole if I just sent my cart hurtling into the corral and didn't give a piss whether it landed properly. When there's other carts, you need to slot them in right. When there's no other cart, you just clang that bastard into the back.
Yeah.
They're gonna clang. By God, they're gonna clang.
Exactly. Every once in a while, those who properly stow their carts get rewarded.
Yeah. And the reward is that sonorous clang.
I like that.
Like,
Yeah.
honestly, I can't stand people that just, this car can go wherever.
Yeah. If you push that cart to just freedom in the fucking parking lot, you're a complete son of a bitch.
Oh, fuck those assholes, because then you're gonna run into them.
Yep, you're going to run into them, they're going to slide into your car is going to be dented to fuck because some dickhead couldn't put their cart back.
Exactly. And then there's then it gets even worse.
The people that return them to nature?
Or steal.
You're
Like
not
both.
wrong. You're not wrong. But I'm talking about the people who, when rightfully called out, when they get the chance, oh, it's not my job to put the car back.
Yep.
I just...
Yeah. And you have the people that return them to nature, or you just said the people that steal them. There is a Target about 1.5 miles away from where I live. I have seen Target carts just sent into the fucking gully on the side of the road.
Sounds about right.
Because
there's a
some
purpose out there.
some dickhead decided that they were going to take the Target cart all the way back, then grab everything from it, and just pitch that bastard into a gully.
Well, they don't need a cart. They just want to know what was in it.
Yeah. And those people are absolute scum when it comes to their morals.
Morals might be a foreign concept to them utterly.
Yeah. They... Yeah, it's a litmus test to see who's an asshole and who isn't. That was what Inquisitor shouted from his room as he's working on minis.
Yeah.
It is just something that pisses me off whenever I see it, because I'm going, no, you return that shit to its proper location.
Exactly. And we could probably go back and forth forever on how much we despise people who can't follow that one simple freaking rule.
Though,
Hold on, I just want to say, I can't believe it. It looks like Donkey is using Jaco as a pillow.
it kind of does, yeah.
Well, I have my arch point just before him.
No, he kind of molded into where you were at, so
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but
I mean,
it's funny to look at.
I'm not putting much weight on the Jacob.
You see that? Look at that.
Hey, Chris, come out.
I'm not squishing the Jacob.
He'd yelp if you squished him. He's a
Don't
good
you
boy.
fuck with Jack.
He's a good boy. I'll say I wanted some Jake pets. That's what I wanted.
But yeah.
It's an immediate dopamine release. You can feel it in your brain. Just whoosh.
As I was saying earlier, and then we split off from it again, the current definition of a spurg is so or not a spurg rather, because now being a spurg has been defined as not a thing anymore. It's now high-functioning autism.
No.
But
That's where they get you, right?
being defined as autistic doesn't mean a fucking thing currently.
Yeah,
Dude,
because autism has been so broadly defined that it doesn't mean anything anymore.
yeah, because it
And
is.
Spurg, references specifically to Asperger's syndrome,
Yep,
which is no longer fucking acknowledged
Yep.
anymore.
it's been removed from the DSM, and the problem with the reason why why not just spurgery, but autism doesn't mean anything anymore is because it's been so grossly expanded
Yeah.
that it
Clearly
includes
describes nothing.
fucking everyone. Because
You're even slightly eccentric in even the slightest bit.
not even just the people that are slightly eccentric, the people that are completely fucking normal are now within the range of spurgery.
Yeah.
Because the best example is spurgery used to be, in tradition, spurgery and autism were both A to antisocial disorder. So A meaning not,
Completely withdrawn. Yeah.
and anti meaning completely against. So one of the hallmark symptoms of spurgery, for instance, was a discomfort making eye contact. And the point to which you had that discomfort would indicate how severe of a autist or spurg you were.
Yeah.
From someone that they could sometimes make eye contact, but it felt really wrong to them, to someone that just went, no, eyes freak me the fuck out, I am not making eye contact with someone. Though that was the range. Do you know what the new range is, Adam?
I can't say I do.
So the new range is from someone who completely refuses to make eye contact at the low end to someone who makes obsessive eye contact at the high end.
So it literally encompasses everyone.
Every single person on Earth falls within this
Throw a
spectrum.
donkey. I have a pair of socks over there.
Hey, hold
I can
on.
throw it at
This
some-
is also building into the lore. There is a standard response to someone give me something to throw at donkey.
Which has been said far too many times.
It doesn't even donkey doesn't even have to say or do anything, and it's just give me something to throw at donkey.
And let me get a little bit closer to the microphone to make sure that people hear that.
Yeah.
That is the proper response to someone give me something to throw at donkey. It's for me to flip out one of my knife blades. And then, Adam, here you go.
Yeah, I don't want to throw that.
He refuses every fucking time I hand it to him.
Because I love donkey.
Yeah.
I love donkey.
I mean, even though he wants to throw shit at me sometimes, it doesn't mean he wants to hurt me.
Oh, I'm hearing double now.
Uh-oh.
It's echoing back, Adam.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find the mute.
Fucking mute.
But yeah, that's the proper response. Anytime that someone says that, I just pull out one of my knives, flip the blade open, and I hand it to them. But for some reason, Adam never accepts the perfectly fine knife that I'm proffering.
It's a nice knife.
I have a grand selection of knives that I hand him. Sometimes it's a completely oxidized, in the black oxidation that they do on certain knives, knife, and he declines that one. Sometimes it is a beautifully patterned knife with some etching done in it, and he declines that. I've offered him a kitchen knife, he's declined that. I've offered him gentleman's blades, and various other workman EDC knives, and he's declined each and every one of them. Yet he continues to ask for something to throw at Donkey.
We've thrown like caps for bottles and stuff like that at Donkey.
And I will say this: the only thing that has ever truly pissed me off that I've been thrown at me was a bag of nuts.
Yeah, a bag of nuts. Yeah.
You should be used to gobbling nuts.
Oh shit!
It hit the minis. That's why.
Sayings. Think about it. I refused all of the edged blades to be tossed at this person.
But if I offer him this,
no, not even this. Spicy Indian nuts. Whoop. He has an issue, and he was quick to draw arms against me because I threw nuts at his army. So
yeah, and
to be fair, I'd draw arms against you if you threw some of my army.
How good of an artist was he? Were they good-looking arms that he drew, or were they kind of stringy, skipping arm day?
He obviously didn't flip the canvas so he could check the proportionality. So
no, it was more like late 90s Nickelodeon type stuff.
Noodle arms.
Noodle arms.
Yeah. Okay. Some Hey Arnold looking shit.
You were supposed to use a lot of imagination to be able to. Oh yeah, that's an arm.
It's just an arm with those freakish, like, 3-finger and thumb hands on it.
That's what they used. I mean, hey, that's what they were able to do.
Why must you torture me like this?
Because I love you, Dougie.
Because you're a beast of burden, so it's only right.
Well, I mean, he only has a few more days here, and then after he's gone, I can be like, fuck that donkey, man, he's a piece of shit. Yeah.
No, don't you know the rules? There's solid rules of how you treat your bros. Face to face, you just rip the absolute piss out of them. 24-7. There is absolutely no reprieve. The moment that they turn their back and they walk away, that's when you go, that guy's actually fairly nice.
Yeah. I will add some caveats to that. If the guy's dealing with some serious shit, that he's not in no joking mood.
Even then, you rip the piss out of him.
Some brevity and grace in that.
No, you rip the piss out of him in an amusing fashion.
Okay. We're saying the same thing in slightly different ways, I guess.
Because even if someone's kind of going through shit, you just make dark jokes. That's the way that you get through that. If someone is dealing with shit, you make the darkest, most fucked up jokes that you can possibly do. And they will find them fucking hilarious. Because everyone else has been walking on goddamn eggshells around them. But you're the person that goes, well, at least you don't have to get any gifts on Mother's Day. Inquisitor just laughed from his bedroom at that statement.
Hey, and I'd throw the grin on.
Yeah, everyone's fucking smiling.
No.
Inquisitor laughed from his room with that
I'm not
statement.
smiling. That hurt. And you know what, Sanguine? You know what, Quiz? Look, I'm done. I can't do this. That was. Fucking guys. I'm sorry. Quiz is responding.
You fucking guys.
From behind a wall. I don't want to say. But you know what? I'm out here. I cannot. You have gone beyond the pale, sir. I cannot do this.
Have you seen how fucking translucent I am? I'm the goddamn beacons of Gondor with how pale I am. Of course I've gone beyond the pale.
Now, bear in mind, only a couple of us have seen the dwarf in person.
Alright, well, you guys enjoy your shit. I'm gonna go out and have a smoke.
I'm surprised you aren't grabbing a bit more of the whiskey.
Is there more? Well, okay. Hold on. First off,
I wasn't an asshole. I
no.
took a
You're
couple
supposed
fingers.
to be hosting. I could be able to, take
Is
a
that
break.
an open invitation?
I've asked if anyone wanted some of the fucking whiskey.
Fair enough.
Adam asked if people wanted the whiskey.
Dude, I don't know if it's a good idea to allow Eeyore.
Donkey, grab the whiskey, bring it to me. I will pour you the whiskey.
Jesus Christ. You and your big mouth.
Alright, I need a smoke. I gotta go.
I don't need someone to pour my booze.
Yes, the fuck you do.
What a boss!
Okay,
Hold
so
on, there's gonna be chockers and flamers and bosses and some weirdo other goblin people.
those who didn't tune in last night, they did not hear the origin of the pant-shitting tree.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
is why Eeyore absolutely needs someone to pour his drink for him. That's a good 2 fingers.
Sanguines.
Yep. Fantastic. Let me
Move over for.
come take a peek. So, what's being said in chat as of recent? With or without Amy? What the fuck is that last one saying?
Which one?
Yeah, I know that I'm speaking directly into the mic, which is why I'm trying to be a little bit softer than I was when I was sitting in the chair over there. It is slightly ASMR-y, but not full-blown.
Well, just make sure that they're paying for the extra content.
Oh, yes, whiskey with or without an E. This is whiskey with an E because it is an American whiskey. And American whiskies all traced through the Irish lineage of whiskies. Which Irish whiskies, of course, are the ones with an E. The whiskies with a Y are all through the Scottish heritage of whiskies.
Scots beat Irish.
Fuck you, they're both goddamn delicious. But
I have family pride to live up to.
So do I.
Right.
You're fishing what, mate?
The Scots wouldn't even have a fucking coronation stone without the goddamn Irish.
I get you.
And cheers.
Velvet Brothers.
The whiskey in question is a lovely little dram of American whiskey. It is a straight bourbon Buffalo Trace.
Very delicious.
Yep, which was...
Oh, dude, I love this.
Oh, you're in for it, Frosted.
No, not all whiskeys taste the same. All whiskeys taste very different depending on their origin and depending on the quality
how
thereof.
do we begin the process of booting Frosted?
So, you have, at the harshest end of whiskeys, you have the Canadian whiskeys.
Why?
It's a fucking fact. The Canadian whiskeys are the harshest end of whiskeys. Because the two ways that you get smoothness when it comes to whiskey is you either do increased distillation.
Eeyore, give Jake space. Give Jacob space.
I don't have space to give.
You do
He needs a space.
increased distillation, or you do increased aging.
I know.
And when it comes to Canadian whiskeys have the lowest aging requirement as well as the lowest distillation requirement.
2 and 3 years, if I recall correctly.
It's for Canadian whiskey, technically 1.5 distillation, because you use a double distillation seed alcohol, and you use a single distillation flavoring alcohol, which is why the Canadians talk about the length of finish in their whiskey.
The fact you get that warm feeling for like a minute after you drink it.
You get the warmth and burn in your mouth and down your throat. That's the length of finish, because it starts in the mouth, then runs down to the belly, and you get that burn all the way down. Then it hits the belly, and you do get a lovely belly bloom when it comes to Canadian whiskey. But it's a belly bloom that is native to all whiskeys, yes, I see. Then, from Canadian whiskey, which, like I said, will be the harshest due to its 1.5 distillation, you move, and it uses 3 year and a day, if I'm not mistaken. 3 year and a day is your youngest whiskey?
I think it's 3 on the dot.
Yeah, so 3 year and a day, you'll hear that that term in whiskey circles means that it's aged for 3 years, and because the 3 years is a minimum aging, by the way that it's done, it is 3 full years, and then it is a day, because it is on that last day, normally around midday, that the cask is actually drawn off and bottled. So you get 3 years in a day. Then you have American whiskey. American whiskey is a solid 2 distillations and then 3 years and a day. It can go longer, so different whiskeys have different aging periods. Normally it has the period which it is aged listed somewhere. I'm quickly seeing if this one has the number of years listed, or if this is one of the more opaque ones, and it seems to be one of the more opaque ones. That's a curious thing. So typically you'll have 3 years in a day in American whiskeys as well. Then you also have Japanese whiskeys are in the same vein, where you have Japanese whiskeys are normally double distillation, and they kind of straddle the 3... Okay, so Buffalo Trace, Donkey just pulled it up, is apparently a 6 to 8 year, which explains its smoothness.
Indeed.
Because the longer that you age a whiskey, the smoother it gets. So at a 6 to 8 year age, that makes perfect sense why it's this lovely. But you have Japanese whiskeys. Japanese whiskeys tend to split the difference between Irish and Scottish styles when it comes to aging. So they'll be at about 4 year and a day aging as their youngest whiskeys. And those are spelled without the E because they take more after the Scottish style than they do the Irish style. They can be very, very harsh at the low end, but at the medium to high end, they're lovely. Then, as kind of the granddaddy of all whiskies, you have the 2 twinned for smoothness whiskies of Irish and Scotch. Irish whiskey is triple distilled, 3 year and a day. Also, one of the interesting notes of Irish whiskey, and one of the things that makes it Irish whiskey, is the fact that Irish whiskey uses a blend of malted and unmalted grain. Then you have Scotch. Scotch is double distilled, 5 years and a day minimum. Normally, you'll see it much older than 5 years and a day. So, for example, Johnny Walker Black tends to be 8 years. Then you have Johnny Walker Green, which tends to be more around 10. You have the Ardbeg, which is a lovely, lovely Islay. And you have the Ardbeg 10, you have the Cory of Vrecken, you have the Wee Heavy, you have the Heavy Vapors. All of those are different Ardbegs, and they all start at about 10. And they count up from there, because you can get substantially older Ardbegs. You also have the Lefroig, which is another Islay. Absolutely delicious. The Isleys tend to be the smokiest of the whiskies, because they do the heaviest peatings of the whiskies. Yes?
Smoked whiskeys. I will say, once they add that quote-unquote flavor of smoked, it... I don't know. Some people, they may enjoy that charred type of flavor.
Yep.
Personally...
I personally enjoy that heavy smoking. So, you have different levels of peating when it comes to Scotch whiskies. You never have any peating when it comes to Irish whiskies. Irish whiskies won't be anywhere near as smoky as any Scotch. Because Irish whiskies just use a smokeless drying room. And there's some American whiskies that will do a similar process to peating. There's some that will do a similar process to the Irish dry room drying. Canadian whiskies, I think you do mostly dry room drying?
Most of ours are dry room dry blends, yeah.
Yeah, with the exception of like Gooderham and Wort, which is a Canadian Scotch style whiskey, which uses a peating method. So the reason why Scottish whiskies are smokier than Irish whiskies.
Hold on.
Yep.
We got Frosted Glass out in the chat that says whiskey.
The whiskeys all taste the same? I already chastised him for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not fair.
And then he followed it up by 3 years is the minimum aging for whiskey and Antifa girlfriends.
Whoa, hold on. If you have...
That is accurate, that Antifa will go rather young.
Could you imagine an Antifa girlfriend?
Oh, good lord.
Most of them are incels. But it makes sense that those that do have girlfriends, they would have to go extremely young to find anyone that would actually deal with them.
Yeah, but that drives them into another thing Antifa is known for.
Yep.
They're on.
Whiskey.
They're
No, they're not known for whiskey.
They're on holy alliance with MAPS.
Yes.
What?
MAPS, minor attracted persons.
Oh.
AKA pedophiles.
The euphemism.
I wanna...
Chomos, if you prefer.
I mean, I don't want to go down this road. I figured we just set up a wood chipper.
Yeah.
That's my preferred method as well.
Though I have a very slight caveat. A pedophile, as defined, attracted to minors. Perfectly okay. Definitely needs psychological help. They ever touch a kid, straight to the wood chipper.
Yeah, the moment that they act on it, they need wood chipper. Having a fucked up attraction that is never acted on, you need assistance.
Mm. And I know I'm falling into the good pedophile, but one who constantly seeks that help is a lot better than the one who will just act on it.
Yeah, someone who never acts on it.
It's because those people realize that what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah, for those who didn't hear, Inquisitor just shouted from the other room. It's because those people that don't act on it realize it's wrong.
Yes.
And that is entirely the thing.
That is an objective truth.
Yeah, I have...
Child molestation and child attraction is wrong.
Yep. And the thing is that if someone never acts on it, then I'm against thought crime.
Yes, same.
Everyone should be against thought crime.
Yes.
There are people that aren't. But anyone with any sort of sense of what is right will be against thought crime.
Dude.
And due to that, it's the action that should be punished, not the mere
And not only that is that
sense.
a person that is minor attracted, seeking like help and trying to alleviate that attraction. That's acknowledging a flaw and trying to correct it.
Oh yeah, and I feel an immense amount of pathos for someone who...
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah, I feel an immense amount of pathos for someone who's afflicted thusly, and who they don't want to act on it. They do everything to not act on it. They don't act on it. They seek help in order to never do so. Yeah, I feel an immense amount of pathos for them because that is fucking horrendous to live through.
Pathos being, because it's one of those $2 words, similar, along the same lines as sympathy, maybe empathy more.
So, you have...
Understanding.
I know it's pretty similar to one or the other.
It is more like empathy, but it is the... So you have ethos, pathos, and logos are the traditional terms for this. So ethos is when you have a understanding and sympathy for the ethics of someone's position.
If you want the quick and dirty definition, pathos is a quality that evokes pity or sadness.
Yep. Whereas logos is understanding the logic behind something.
Yeah.
Pathos is a pity or understanding of the emotion behind something.
Someone trying to do good despite the fact that they've been afflicted by such a... I hate to use the term because of the logical slip hole it creates, mental illness that is pedophilia.
Yeah. Someone who... Oh, like I said, I feel pathos for someone who is suffering from that condition, but does not act on it. The moment that they act on it, they're completely detestable.
Right through the wood chipper.
Yep. Right through the wood chipper, especially
don't
since...
Don't go to jail, don't collect $200.
Especially since, as people that are fans of the show might well know by now, I was a correction officer. The single crime that had the greatest rate of recidivism is a convicted chomo. Convicted chomos had almost a 100% recidivism.
I would have thought that due to the fact of how prisons treated chomos, they would never even dare.
Oh no, they have almost a 100% recidivism.
Yeah,
if a chomo...
chomos, believe it or not, get a lot of protection in prison for their own good.
Yep, they're put in shoes.
Yeah, they're put in isolation. They're put in
So for those who don't know,
away from Gen Pop.
A SHU is a special housing unit. SHU, SHU.
Okay, if they're given all those protections, because I know...
Oh, they still get stomped out.
Oh, as I say, you put a pedophile in Gen Pop, they get fucked up.
Yeah.
Every single prisoner in there is going to take their pound of flesh.
Yeah, because...
That's why I sit there and say, you get some really fucked up pedophiles, put them in Gen Pop. Don't even try that shit.
Yeah, because even prisoners realize how fucked up that is.
Yeah.
Exactly. When you have murderers, normal rapists, and all the rest coming to beat your ass, you've done something outright deplorable.
Like I said, I was a former correction officer. And I heard offenders say, at least I'm not a chomo.
Yeah.
And...
I may be a murderer, but at least I ain't a chomo.
Yeah, there was one dude, dissolved bodies for the cartel.
And at least I ain't a chomo.
And he would constantly say, I'm not a fucking chomo. At least I'm not a fucking chomo. By the way, he became a seg swamper for an extended period of time. Okay. And he would constantly go up to officers in segregation and go, So, I'm going to clean this section of Seg. If one of the doors happens to pop open, it's not your guys' fault. I'll handle it. Because the reason why he was in Seg for as long as he was, and why he was a Seg Swamper, was he'd killed 2 Chomos.
Okay.
I mean, death by cartel cleaner?
I'm just.
I almost consider
there's
that
very
too
little-
good
very
for
little sympathy I
Chomos.
have.
Yeah, very little sympathy. But he had done it twice while in prison.
Good.
So, he got sent to Seg for an extended period of time, to the point where he went, I'll become a Seg Swamper. I'll clean Seg for you. I'm here anyways.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. When it comes down to crimes, there is a hierarchy. When you're talking about people that have... Typically, people that do rather thought-out crimes tend to be towards the top.
Yeah.
So if you get, like, a bank robber.
Mm-hmm.
Bank robbers get an aura of respect, almost.
I'd expect tax evaders would also, due to the aura around tax evasion.
Oh, there was a guy who was financial crimes in the prison that I worked at that became damn near the financial consultant of everyone in the prison.
So the
Alright.
fucked up thing is, though, is that there's an opposite end of that.
Yep.
You get Chomos are on the very bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Cop killers are at the very top.
Cop killers, bank robbers, and a handful of others tend to be towards the very top.
Yeah, what the 3 I knew were at the bottom were wife beaters, chomos, and other related child crime offenders.
If you abuse children, if you were or rather, so in order of the lowest to the highest, it was chomos, child abusers,
child beaters, yeah,
and child killers too.
Yeah, child killers would be with child abusers.
Yeah.
And then
And
wife
then-
and women beaters.
Yeah, wife and women beaters. The weird thing is always serial killers can be very high or very low.
Yeah, it's weird.
Depending on target.
Depending on target and depending on method.
Yeah.
Because different methods also resulted in a high or low. Also, one of the weirdest stories from prison is Kemper was fucking Pavlovian training another serial killer. Because there was another serial killer that was Kemper's roommate for an extended period of time. And as Kemper's cellie, he was an arrogant bastard when he first came in. Anytime that he wasn't an arrogant bastard, Kemper would give him an M&M. Anytime he was an arrogant bastard, Kemper would not give him an M&M.
Yeah, it's Pavlovian conditioning.
Yeah, and over the course, the guy became more and more tempered, so that he would get more and more M&Ms from Kemper. Which is one of the things that drives me crazy when it comes to Kemper, because there's a bunch of people that are saying, well, Kemper's completely changed his ways. He needs to be considered for release and for parole. And I'm going, okay, we know this guy has a properly genius level IQ. This guy is a master manipulator. And everyone who has tried to diagnose him has gone, yep, he is a master manipulator. He's successfully Pavlovian trained another serial killer. And now you're going, well, he's much nicer now. I think he's changed his ways.
Well, he hasn't killed anyone in the last 5 years. Well, that's because he's been in prison for the last 5 years.
He's been in prison, and he knows the rules. When you're dealing with a genius that is an expert manipulator, if everyone around him is going, yeah, he should be... He's changed his ways, he's changed everything, he should be let free. And that should immediately make everyone on the parole board go, no.
Big stamp.
You'd have to get at least a few people that come forward and go, he's an asshole. Everyone coming forward and saying, he is a model offender, he's doing his job, he helps maintain the unit, he's a good guy. No, that is a bad sign. And it's one of the things that when I was in corrections, we were told to look out for. If we ever saw a correction officer that started seeing every offender as just someone who had a hard time of it, that was a bad sign. A really good example was an example that one of my instructors from the academy used, where there was a priest that was in prison, and a Catholic was one of the correction officers. A Catholic was saying that the priest was a very nice man, and that he was a very nice man who was misunderstood. And that he had had a change of heart and was truly repentant for the actions that he had taken. Want to guess what crime the good father was in for?
Murder.
No.
No?
Catholic priest.
Chomo?
Chomo.
Okay.
Over 100 children.
Oh, jeez.
Straight to the wood chipper, I hope. Or straight to the rapey bin.
No.
In prison.
The unfortunate truth is that the mentality that especially people like us have about, you know, chomos and wanting to see a sort of cosmic revenge done on them for the severity of the crime is not shared amongst the federal penal statutes.
Yep.
So, yeah, no, it's actually a pretty lenient crime, and you're not going to see a 25 to life chomo.
Yeah, and
It's not going to happen.
People that argue that if you tried to go for more extreme punishment for chomos, that would encourage chomos to commit more extreme crimes.
I would sincerely hope that every single chomo that sees someone get a short drop and sudden stop would realize that it's not worth the risk and stop it.
Well, the problem is that...
I mean, you don't even have to increase the punishment. Just let prison culture handle it. Gen Pop.
They know.
Gen Pop.
They know.
Are you
Chomos
familiar
know that.
with the pyramid of prevention? So, at the very base of the pyramid, because it's the widest reaching, but it's also the least effective, is the deterrence. So, for everyone that... I'm willing to bet everyone knows, but just to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Deterrence is making a crime's punishment so severe that it deters people from committing that crime. It's the widest reaching, but it is the least effective because criminals don't think that they're going to be caught. 100% of criminals don't think that they're going to be caught when they're committing it. Some of them will realize, oh shit, I fucked up, after committing the act, but while committing the act, they do not think that they're going to be one of the ones that's caught. So that's the reason why it has the lowest effect, but it has the widest reach because fucking everyone realizes that, criminal will get this punishment. Above that is when you have social issues that hit, not just the legal issues, but if someone knows that their entire community will turn against them, that has a much greater effect than just the deterrence. The deterrence, I don't want to make it sound like deterrence has no effect. Deterrence has an effect, it's just not as great. But when they think that their entire community will turn against them, that has a much greater effect on preventing them from committing the crime. Because people are more sure that other people in their community will realize that, hey, this crime happened. It's probably so-and-so. They don't think that they'll be caught by police. They don't think that they'll be convicted. But they're willing to bet that their community will recognize who committed the crime and will judge them accordingly. So ostracization is one of the more extreme versions of this. If someone's ostracized, it decreases the likelihood of them committing a crime. The final one is, of course, if someone thinks that the law is moral. It affects the fewest number of people, but the people that it affects has the greatest effect on. If you think that it's wrong to kill, the chance that you're going to kill someone decreases drastically.
I mean, there's only, in my opinion, two reasons why someone should kill. And both of them are directly related to protecting others. Protecting yourself for one's home and protecting one's country.
I can think of a couple of reasons to kill. Being perfectly honest.
I mean, in defense of yourself and others, and
protecting
defense
yourself,
of your country.
protecting another, protecting your country. If you think that someone's a serious harm to a child, aka Chomo, I can understand.
That's a little bit vigilante there.
It is a little bit vigilante, but I can understand it, and I think that it's...
I can understand it.
Yeah.
But it's not right. It's not right.
I would say that it's not ideal.
I would say that it's not right.
Also,
you can't be judge, jury, and executioner.
This is where my extremely fucked up side comes into play. I say for those types of people, killing them is denying them their true punishment, which is 10 or 20 years in Gen Cop.
Oh no, it shouldn't be 10 or 20. It shouldn't be 10 or 20.
It should be 25 to life. I really do think that child chomos should be 25.
I don't even think that it should be 25 to life. I think that, given the rate of recidivism, life.
Sure.
100%.
The rest of their life being the bottom bitch of the
I'm also
cell?
saying, I don't think that they'd last 25 years.
Oh, the vast majority don't. But I don't want the chance of them getting out.
Sure.
Like I said, when it comes to the recidivism rate of chomos,
yeah,
it is almost 100%.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I do not have any sort of sympathy for it. Yeah. Because if you're released, you will just go out and commit the same fucking crime. Hello, how are you doing, Jake? You will commit the same fucking crime, then I have no issue with saying, yeah, you should die in prison. You should be buried beneath it. The only way that you leave is feet first. And for those who don't know, the comment of feet first, it's a common practice when it comes to how someone's transported out of an area.
Well, it's...
The coffin goes
that's
feet
a common,
first.
That's a common euphemism. Feet first means
Yeah.
that you're out on a stretcher. Either from hospitalization or in a morgue.
Yep.
It's a common euphemism. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, you go feet first out of the facility, then you go head first out of the hospital.
You could expand it even further and say you're leaving with a toe tag.
Yeah. Just wanted to make sure because I know that oftentimes I'll use various terms.
That's a common one. That's a common one.
Okay. I have trouble determining what is common and what isn't due to all the things that I've done.
Yeah, homeboy, you've had a very storied career when it comes to the different jobs you've worked. So
yeah, I've been everything from Mandarin TA to EMT, correction officer, a hotel, or not hotel, a condominium concierge, and laboratory
technician,
tech, as well as several other jobs. I've had a very interesting career.
Look at this guy. He's a sweet puppy.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of the things that I was never sure if it was common parlance or if it was just
Yeah.
jargon in the field.
Yeah, no. Feet first is, yeah.
Yeah,
You're not leaving in any good sort of standing if you're leaving feet first.
Yeah.
You're either going to a hospital or you're going into the morgue.
And the thing is, you leave feet first from hospital, you leave head first from hospital.
Oh, really?
Because
You enter
every
feet
time
first.
that you're put on a stretcher,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be taken out feet first.
Okay.
That way you can see where you're going.
Yeah, I was going to say.
When you're taken out head first, that means you're fucking dead.
Yeah. Well, I don't care about it.
They don't care about what you see.
Yeah. Well, they don't care about if they accidentally bump your head on the door or something like that,
Yep.
too. You're dead.
So yeah, you have feet first versus head first.
I'll still say, death is too good a punishment for the kind of people we're talking about.
You know, see, that's
Certain deaths.
I personally do agree with that, but it's just not in my hands to make that judgment. And that's the reason why I say that vigilante justice is not a good thing.
See,
I wouldn't want the crowd to determine my fate, so I'm not going to make the crowd determine someone else's.
I have a fairly straight... So, when it comes to death penalty, to my mind, if it's a one-off offense, I don't think death penalty should ever be on the table.
I think the death penalty should be used in any circumstance where it's appropriate. It's
Yeah.
just that the problem is that the death penalty is not infallible, and that's the problem I have with it. Because I personally think that some people that perform absolutely horrific crimes should get the death penalty as soon as fucking possible. None of this waiting around on
Yeah,
death
but
row
do
shit.
you trust the state?
That's where it comes down to.
And
Do I
see,
trust the
that's
state?
where I have
power.
my criteria. Because, like I said, a one-off, I don't think death penalty should be on the table for a one-off.
Sometimes I do, depending on the crime. There's
It
this
has
one.
to be fairly severe
There was
or
this
chomo.
There was this one woman. I watch a lot of true crime on YouTube and shit like that. There was this one woman who, it was a domestic dispute sort of thing between her and her husband. They'd separated and everything, and it was Child Protective Services was called in for it, right? And he was the child was removed and put with his father because his mother was like on meth and like a whole bunch of other shit, right? And she was had it separated, but because of the state and how they operate,
That's a bit far cannibalistic.
I fully understand it. He said,
Yeah, let's give Inquisitor. Let's not read that out loud.
Yeah.
Let's just pass that around for all of us to see.
Yeah, that's a little spicy.
I was gonna say I'm not gonna read that one either. They're cannibalistic.
Yeah, I'm not going to co-sign that.
No. But
At
anyway,
least not any place controlled by Susan or male Susan.
Fuck Susan and fuck Neil. But anyway, okay. So this woman, right? She gets her kid taken away and given to the father. She was the problem in the situation, but because of the state and how they have the
Default to
the default to the mother thing.
Yep.
After the kid was taken out of the foster and away from his dad, it was given to his mom. His mom, while on a drug-fueled craze, shot her kid, 12-year-old kid, with a 12-gauge shotgun in the
three
face,
times?
and and in the chest 2 more times.
Fucking nothing remained of his head.
Yeah, and she said in the courtroom, she was asked to speak in her defense, and she said, "This is all bullshit. Fuck you and fuck this court. No, short drop and sudden stop right fucking now. Don't put on don't go to death row. Don't collect $200. You fucking die. You cannot do that kind of shit, especially to a kid who is put in your care under the failing of the fucking state. Not only that, I think that she should get a quick drop and sudden stop, and every single one of those fucking people in CPA should get the same goddamn treatment until the governor, who also should get that shit, changes that law."
See, the thing that I have, the reason why I say one-offs pretty much never have the
same sort of appeal for death
penalty. Death penalty shouldn't be on the table for one-offs, with the exception of
serious
You
shit.
have-
Well, I'm just saying, what I said there was very serious.
Oh yeah,
Right?
it's very serious. But
Fuck that cunt.
in cases like spree killers, when we have
Oh yeah. Okay.
the complete footage of them
Mhm.
committing the crime,
Okay.
that they should get death penalty for.
Sure.
To my mind.
Yeah.
Serial killers, death,
Death
penalty.
penalty.
Serial rapist, death,
Death
penalty.
penalty. I can agree with that.
The reason
You're talking about like the was it crime of passion and stuff like that?
crime of passion should never have death penalty.
Well, some of them get reduced down to manslaughter even.
Also, one of the reasons why I say that one-offs
Mm-hmm.
are something that I don't think should get death penalty
Mhm.
is the origin of burn labs. Do you know the origin of
Yeah.
burn labs? It was a man in Texas
Mhm.
who was convicted and sentenced to death
Mhm.
for the immolation of his 3 daughters.
Okay.
So the story was, as the state told it, the man had spread various accelerants around the house
Mhm.
and had committed arson,
Okay.
burning his 3 children alive,
Okay.
his 3 daughters alive.
Uh-huh.
The man had severe burns to his arms. The man's story was he woke up in the middle of the night
Mhm.
to his house on fire. He ran outside immediately after seeing his house was on fire.
Mhm.
When he got outside, he realized that his daughters were
inside.
nowhere to be seen. He ran
Right
back
back
inside, and he suffered severe burns to, I think it was over 18% of his body,
Mhm.
trying to find his daughters.
Mhm.
The fires were such that he was driven back outside the house, and he was forced to watch as his house was burned to the
Burned
ground.
down. Okay.
It was called in, firefighters did show up, they
Mhm.
tried their best to put out the house fire. But in the after fire investigation,
Mhm.
the arson investigators viewed that they had evidence that it was arson.
Okay.
The evidence that they used was something known as crazed glass,
Okay.
what they called accelerant pooled burns,
Mhm.
and a handful of other things.
Yeah, you've told this story before. It turns out that via several other
So-
methods, everything else was explained and it was an accident.
What happened was the man was sentenced to death. He was executed.
Mhm.
And due to people continuing to push for investigation into it, a burn lab was set up. The first ever burn lab. Burn lab is this: you make a 1-for-1 structure of whatever area was affected by the fire,
Mhm.
and you make several of them. You try different accelerants,
Mhm.
you try different burn conditions, from a fire that starts accidentally
Mhm.
all the way up to this place was
Arson,
completely
yeah.
caked in accelerants.
Sure.
In that very first burn lab, they found out that everything that they thought was indicative of arson
Mhm. Was an accident.
was actually counter to arson.
Mhm.
Because crazed glass is a real thing. It happens in fires. They thought that it was caused by arson.
Mhm.
Turns out every instance of crazed glass is as the fire heats up, the glass heats up.
Mhm.
If the
Melts.
glass heats up gradually enough,
Mhm.
then it gets uniform temperature.
Mhm.
It can only get uniform temperature if it's a non-accelerant burn.
Okay. So it's a natural burn rather than an accelerated burn.
And it is when the fire is being put out,
Mhm.
fire hoses cast off a mist. That mist
Mm.
hits the window. That mist causes the window to shatter in this very particular way.
Mhm.
Which, crazing, the window's completely shattered, but it's in one piece.
Okay.
So you have these cracks running throughout the entire fucking window, but it doesn't
Actually separate.
actually separate. So that turned out to be from a natural fire and just the result of putting out a natural fire. What they thought were accelerant pools when it comes to the burn markings, that was carpet pooling.
Okay.
Because what happens is as a fire burns in an area, you have air gets superheated. And as the superheated air ends up expanding down, because hot air rises, so the lower it is in the column, the cooler the air is. When that superheated air hits the carpet, if it's synthetic carpet, the carpet melts first. That causes pooling. Then it will burn. And that causes these very strange burn markings in the wood.
Yeah, and they would see that as pooling,
Accelerant pooling,
accelerant there.
rather than carpet melting pooling.
And see that, and again, like bringing all this stuff up though is the reason why I sit there and say it's all well and good for the death penalty for as a punishment in my opinion.
Yep.
But you have to be certain. If there's even the
Which is
slightest
why,
bit of a doubt.
Which is why, to my mind, I have absolutely no problem with death penalty when someone's convicted of one crime, that there's a chance that it's wrong. Someone's convicted of two crimes, that chance decreases.
Well, if they're charged with two crimes at the same time, the chance decreases, and it just keeps on going. If you get more,
Yep,
more and more.
the more crimes that they're charged with, the lower the chance that it's an accidental conviction.
The one time I was actually a juror, I remember the case was about domestic abuse.
Yep.
And the one thing that we eventually found the guy not guilty. Okay. And I pushed for it too because there just wasn't enough evidence.
Yeah.
They came with like photos of the marks that she had. They weren't even red marks. There was no like actual punctures. There's no blood. There was no bruising. Nothing.
Yeah.
Right on her. The cops refused to testify. She refused to testify. It was only an expert who came in and said, "Look at the photos. You can clearly see the abuse marks." And I'm all like, "Fucking where? Point them out."
Yep.
And yeah, I convinced the rest of the jury, say not guilty, and sure enough, we not guilty.
And that's the thing, that's the reason why I say a one-off crime. I feel like that's shaky enough that I don't think that should be on the table for the vast majority, if not every one-off crime. Shouldn't be on the table.
Yeah, my opinion on the death penalty, I fully believe that there are some crimes that require it.
Oh yeah, like I said, Chomos have almost 100% recidivism.
But, and this is the huge part, do I trust the state to wield that power? And for civic reasons of that alone, I'm against the death penalty.
I agree. I agree entirely.
By the state.
I agree entirely, and I agree with that wording too. Is the fact that do you trust the state? And I don't.
And that's the reason why I add the caveat of if it's a serial crime, then it becomes so egregious and the chance of the wrongful conviction decreases
to the point where it's negligible.
And even if in a specific circumstance, that specific case that goes to court in a serial case is not right, it's a serial case, you might get it right. And the chance of you not getting it right in a serial case is minuscule, probably.
Yeah, it's...
I'm shocked that the...
so ridiculously
Was it
small.
Terravinen? Or what? Or no, not Terravinen. Whatever the fuck, it was T something. The fucking Boston Marathon bombers.
Oh yeah.
I'm surprised they're not...
Yep. And that's...
The people they killed and injured? Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking short drop and sudden stop. I don't care about this whole death row bullshit. And you know what I'm saying? You know what I would say too? I'll go even further than that. If you get put on death row for any of that kind of shit,
shouldn't be fucking 70 years.
Shouldn't be 17 years. No.
Not 17.
Yeah.
California, the average length of time on death row is, I think, 78 years.
78 years? No, fuck that. Fuck that. You get your appeals, sure. We'll go through the whole process. You are given your due process. But if every single step of the way you go all the way up to the Supreme Court who won't even fucking hear you, if you get to that point, you're done.
Yep.
fast track you. You get the needle and you get out of you shake off this mortal coil.
Yep.
Yeah. I get that the
And
slow
that's the reason.
process
That's the
is-
thing that drives me crazy, because all the research that says, well, it's actually more expensive to execute someone than it is
Fuck that.
No.
to keep them in prison for life. The reason why they're able to say that is because
Forced labor.
they... No, that isn't the issue. Because the forced labor, that actually pisses me off every time I hear it.
Yeah.
Do you know what prison work actually equates to? So, I worked in an industry prison.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in a maximum security industry prison.
Mm-hmm.
In order to be in industry, you had to apply to the job.
Mm-hmm.
So, you weren't forced to work.
No.
You could choose not to work.
Mm-hmm.
So, first off, we have this prison slavery.
Mm-hmm. No.
If
you
you're
choose to do it.
opting into it,
Mm-hmm.
it isn't slavery.
Nope. And it looks good on your parole. So if you can get parole, and you work.
It has a bunch of perks, so it
Yeah.
looks better on your parole hearing.
Yeah.
It also provides you additional perks. So, for instance,
Skills.
when you're working in industry,
Mhm.
you get additional rec time.
Sure.
You get additional flag time,
Mhm.
which means that you get additional time outside of your cell. For those who don't know, flag time is when you're allowed outside of your cell within your unit. Rec time is when you're allowed outside of your cell, outside of your unit, either in the rec hall, which rec halls, the prison.
Yeah, recreation hall.
Yep, and the prison that I worked at,
Mhm.
it had 2 forms of rec hall,
Mhm.
or technically 3 forms of rec hall. So it had a gymnasium,
Mhm.
a weightlifting gym,
Mhm.
and a video game section.
Really?
Yeah. And it had the latest up-to-date video game consoles
Wow.
in the video game section. So, at the time that I was working there, it had the
PS4.
Nintendo Switch. It was PS4, and then they were transitioning to PS5, because PS5's out at that time, right?
Yeah. It was about that.
And Xbones. So all of those were in the video game rec section. So you had increased rec time, where you could play basketball, play volleyball, play whatever the fuck. You also had yard, so that was an entire other rec section.
Yeah.
Where you could play baseball, basketball, weightlift, run, whatever the fuck you wanted to do in yard.
Sure.
And then flag time was, like I said, in unit, so there was some weightlifting equipment in unit. All of it was machine based, none of it was free weight.
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
And then you had...
Brewers can be used as weapons.
Yeah, exactly. Then you had various other enchainments, including what's known as JPay.
Okay.
JPay is a pseudo-internet.
Okay.
And it's a pseudo-internet that you can... We had JPay pads, which think iPads that can only connect to JPay internet.
Okay.
And that would allow you to download movies, games, shit like that.
Okay.
Onto your JPad. And...
Jailpad.
Yep,
Well,
exactly.
It's funny.
Spike Gun partially explains why the whole death row process is so expensive. The cost of death row inmates is based on the number of...
Appeals.
Yep.
And
Court time.
Court time, yep.
Yep.
It's...
In my opinion, that should...
And also
be
the length
should
of
be
time that it takes for them to actually reach death row. So, like I said, in California, that
It can
massively
take decades,
skews
yeah.
the stats
I see what
on
you're saying, 78.
death row. The average time on death row in California is 78 years.
Most people die before they actually
Most
see
people
the table.
die before they actually reach death row,
Yeah,
or the
before
front
they see
of
the
death
needle,
row.
Yeah.
And by that time, you're calculating in 78 years of prison.
Yep.
Plus all of the appeals. Plus all of the legal counsel. Plus any time that they have any additional restrictions that causes it to be more expensive.
See, that's a good thing to ask to someone who might be a little bit more knowledgeable about that. When you work pro bono, like if you're a lawyer who's been assigned by the state, right?
Yep.
You're an attorney who's been, tasked for working for an assigned case. Are you paid from that from a government stipend?
I believe state appointed will get paid, but
no. See, that's the thing is that you can be like subpoena, not really a subpoena, but you can be once you get your bar association license, you can be tasked with working pro bono.
Yep, and you get paid.
Okay, by the government.
Yep.
Okay.
You get paid not at quite the same rate that you would be.
I thought it was really low if you got
It's
paid.
not really low, but it's not your full rate.
yeah,
it's like
if pressed by the government, you'll get paid. But if voluntarily choosing to, say, go to a full pro bono public defender site where a bunch of lawyers are there specifically for that purpose and can be selected by the state at a pure voluntary basis,
Even then, you tend to
probably
get paid.
not going to get paid.
you'll
that
get at least something.
You tend to get paid by state, and a lot of those sorts of work, or a lot of that sort of work, is also paid by additional funding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's when you calculate in all of the appeals, all of the lawyer meetings, the 78 years on death row, all of that shit, that people then go, well, really, when you look at death row, it's more expensive to have someone on the death penalty than it is to have them as life in prison. Yeah, that's the answer. The answer is, don't have them on death row for 78 years.
Yeah.
My only
Maybe
defense
speed
of
up the
that-
process a little bit.
My only defense of death row taking so long is connected to the reason I'm against the death penalty originally.
Yeah.
It's the check against the state. Like,
It's true.
Yep, but like I said,
I'm just
the
saying,
criteria that I have...
If you've gone through all of the appeals process and nothing has come up in discovery that has even remotely changed anything in your case,
Yep.
I'm sorry, it runs out of sympathy at that point. Now, I know that there have been people who've been wrongfully convicted, wrongfully executed, and stuff like that, but we've come a long way in terms of determining that sort of stuff for criminal investigations.
And a lot of those cases are actually overblown. So there are some legitimate ones, like the guy in Texas that I mentioned, where it turned out that he was entirely innocent. It was an electrical fire in his house, killed his 3 daughters. The man was living in hell. Then he was sentenced to sentenced to death penalty, and he maintained his innocence. Was executed for the murder of his 3 daughters that he tried and had severe burns trying to save. That is absolutely abhorrent. But when we're looking at the vast majority of life cases, when we're looking at the vast majority of death penalty cases, we aren't talking
about those
sorts of cases. Which is why I think that there should be a subset of cases. If it's severe enough, like the case that you mentioned, absolutely life in prison.
Yeah. Well, no, I think death. Fuck that bitch.
I'm saying at the very least, life in prison. But if multiple crimes, especially if we have all the fucking evidence, like we have recordings of this person entered this school at this time.
Yeah.
You can see this from camera 37A. Then we switch to camera 37B, and you see this person walk down this hall at this time. We switch to camera 36A at this time, and we see this person committing this act in this camera. We switch to 36B, and we see them committing this act in this camera.
I mean, even circumstantial cases, like where a lot of the evidence is circumstantial, I personally think that's not...
Well, the problem is a lot of people don't understand circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
Which, do you know how circumstantial evidence works?
I do, of course.
So, for those who don't know how circumstantial evidence works, I can't remember the exact serial killer's name off the top of my head, sadly, but there's a serial killer.
A good way to break down circumstantial evidence in really quick terms is you don't have a smoking gun. You do not have absolute definitive proof that they have performed that act. But they were in the right time, or they were in the right location, they had time, they had motive, they had access to a weapon, and you have definitive proof of them buying, like, tarps and
It's actually more extreme than what
like
you're
I'm just
pitching
saying,
it as.
I'm just saying, all of these things are not proof that they have committed the crime, but they are proof that there was something done in odd behaviors, and it only leads to one person who could have committed.
But I'm saying that isn't even circumstantial evidence in court. Circumstantial evidence. There was a serial killer that was caught entirely off of circumstantial evidence. I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head, but I remember all the info around the case enough that I can talk about it. So, it was a series of females were killed. They were found to have specific carpet fibers on their person.
Mm-hmm.
They were found to have specific blanket fibers on their person. They were found to have specific pet hair samples on their person. They were found to have experienced the same sort of weapon used on their person.
Well, if it was definitively proven that all of the like weapon markings or whatever that they would leave
were consistent.
Yeah.
They were found to have the same roll of duct tape used.
Okay.
Or rather, consistent use of duct tape on each of the victims. So what that means is there was a specific type of carpet that carpet was found to just throw out random numbers. Let's say it was 1 in 100,000 people had that type of carpet. They were found to have a specific type of blanket that 1 in 10,000 people had. So now you have 1 in 10,000 times 1 in 100,000. Which becomes a very, very fucking large number. They were found to have markings consistent with a specific type of implement that was found to be, let's say that is 1 in 200,000. So now you have 1 in 200,000 times 1 in 10,000 times 1 in 100,000. They were found to have pet hair samples that they couldn't get DNA match on, but they were able to say that the chance of this specific sort of pet hair appearing on someone in the general population was about 1 in 500,000 or something like that. So you have 1 in 500,000 times 1 in 200,000 times 1 in 10,000 times 1 in 100,000. Then they found out that they had the same, I think it was dirt sample on them. So you had someone that had the same dirt sample, which was found to be 1 in, let's say, 60,000. So you had 1 in 60,000 times 1 in 200,000 times 1 in I think I said 500,000 times 1 in 10,000 times 1 in 100,000. So
it becomes so exceedingly rare.
You're dealing with something that is several quadrillion against. So you'll have these exact circumstances effectively in 1 in like 12 quadrillion or something ridiculous like that. And when you have that circumstance, it becomes so ridiculously against probability that it is anyone else, that you're able to say it was this person.
Mhm.
That's how circumstantial evidence works. And some DNA evidence is actually circumstantial evidence. Because, for instance, there was a case from the 90s.
Yeah, I think it was like with blood types and stuff like that, but you're not able to get the exact
Yep.
gene code. Yeah.
Where they were able to determine that the chance of someone matching the DNA profile that they were able to receive from the blood sample was 1 in 600 million black people in the 90s in this specific state. The U.S. population is 300 million? So you're talking 600 million. And you're talking U.S. black people. So you have a 1 in 600 million of U.S. black people at that time. So currently we're at like 300 something million population-wise. So at that time, you're dealing with, let's say, 10% less. So 270 million. And you have a 1 in 600 million chance. That exceeds the population of the U.S., let alone the population of black people in the U.S. at that time.
Yeah.
Effectively, you had, it's this motherfucker right
Yeah,
here. Because it matched him.
Yeah, it's
and the chance of it matching anyone else was 600.
Yeah, it's not the fact that it was a definitive match, but it was a close enough that you can sit there and say,
it's him.
Yeah, it's several lottery tickets in a row away from being anyone else.
Yeah, it's several lottery tickets as well as several electrocution or direct strikes by lightning and being at a fucking nuclear facility meltdown away from being anyone else. It is so ridiculously against that it was something.
Well, to me, that sounds like actual evidence.
Yeah, and that's how circumstantial evidence is used. Circumstantial evidence, in and of itself, is never enough to convict a person. A single piece, let me phrase it that way, a single piece of circumstantial evidence is never going to convict someone.
Right. They need something really firm to do it.
Well, it's not really that they need something really firm. It's that the more pieces of circumstantial evidence
that start to pile up,
the more specific it gets. Because, like I gave in the example, when you had the specific type of carpet fiber, that specific type of carpet fiber, there's a bunch of other people that have that carpet fiber. But you're dealing with like 1 in 2 people in the U.S. tops have that type of carpet fiber. But then have that carpet fiber and have that sort of pet demographic. Now you're dealing with 1 in 2 or 1 in 100,000. So that's 1 in 3 in the United States, a little bit more than 1 in 3, and then 1 in 30 because I said 10,000 for the next one. So now it's 1 in...
About 1 in 90 people would have both of them occur.
Yeah. Then you had the next one, which was 1 in 200,000.
And there's where you get, well, correct for population, that's 0.6.
Well, the thing is that it's 0.6 of the general population, but then the way that stats work is you multiply the first one by the second one by the third one.
By the full 2? Yeah, at that point.
At that point, you're dealing with billions.
Yeah.
Then the third one was like 1 in 500,000.
Hello, trillions, if not quads.
Yep, so you're dealing with at the very least trillions, if not quads. The fifth one was like 1 in, I think I said...
You even say 1,000 were into quins or seps.
Yeah, it was like, again, in the 100,000s. So, with each bit of evidence, each each bit is not enough to say that it is this person.
Yeah.
But with every additional bit of circumstantial evidence, you narrow
it just
down
becomes so
drastically.
inconceivable that some other unlucky sod, other than the person they're looking for, could just come upon it.
Yeah, pretty much the only way that you're able to say, well, someone else... And DNA evidence is technically just so ridiculously against the odds circumstantial evidence. Because it, as much as we want to say that DNA evidence is 100%.
Right. In reality...
It isn't.
A complete match is...
The DNA results that you get are typically like 1 in 7 trillion people will have this DNA result.
And you combine that with anything else, you're...
Yeah, the thing is that the U.S. or not the U.S. the world population is currently 7 point something billion.
It's hovering around in the low 7s. It's actually slowed down on its increase quite a bit.
Yeah, it has, but you have you have 7 point something billion.
Yeah.
And then the DNA result is 1 in something trillion. It's not a 100%, but it's functionally a 100%.
Yeah, you add some recordings, some other pieces of particulate evidence, and you're good enough.
Yeah, like the O.J. Simpson DNA testing, if I remember correctly, was 1 in 6 trillion. Would match the DNA from the O.J. case. We don't have 6 trillion, so functionally that is a 100% match. But people have tried to make hay out of that recently. And I saw, looking at chat real quick, so you said that chat stopped. It looks like chat started back up if it had stopped. If not, it was just a...
Quiz hot fixed it.
Okay, so Quiz did do something. Fantastic. The cost of death row inmates is based on the...
I read that.
X number of appeals. Yeah, so, like I said, it's the number of appeals and the time in prison as well as everything else around that. Which...
The short solution to that, as we discussed, was just shorten the time.
Yeah,
However, that's just eating into my civic misgivings about giving the state the power to kill people.
Yep.
Let's just call it what it is. The death penalty is giving the state, through the judiciary, an ability to kill people.
Yep, and like I said, to me...
There are certain people where, yes.
Yeah.
However, it's the state.
Yeah, which is why I'm saying that if you have proper caveats on it, you have proper criteria where you don't do it on a one-off, but serial offenders and spree offenders that we have direct evidence of being eligible for the death penalty, well, now you've just shrunk the pool ridiculously.
Yeah. Down to maybe 1 in every 2 or 3 years would meet those.
Yeah, it would be very few meet those, and then the number of people that would meet those and then be wrongly accused,
That's getting low.
it's functionally 0.
Yeah, but still...
And even so...
You know very well that
That's Sora.
I hate the idea of
Sora
giving the
said,
state
"Good evening."
anything.
I don't like giving the state additional power either.
Unfortunately, there's situations where the only alternative is vigilante anarchism, so...
Nope. Because there's people that are... The world is better off with those people dying.
Yeah.
I agree.
And unfortunately, vigilantism will just devolve into anarchy.
Yeah, you have 2 choices. Either it goes vigilante, because people realize that the world is better off with people dying. And I think the rate of improper action when it comes to vigilantism, nice.
Just saw some Ymir conglomerate art.
Yep.
I think it evoked the
Yeah.
sort of thing with what I painted.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm gonna get back to it.
But the rate of incorrect action via vigilantism exceeds the rate of incorrect action, especially if you put the caveats that I'm putting on.
Yeah. Which means it's the lesser of two evils.
Yep.
And as long as those caveats hold, and a well-educated civil populace empowered to change those caveats if needed,
Yep.
is superior than giving that form of initiative to the judiciary directly, or any form of legislative or executive process.
Yep. So I view having the proper limitations as the lesser of all evils.
Yeah. Heck, I could almost say make some sort of death row referendum roll. Sure, you're going to get a bunch of idiots voting on it both ways, but
Yep.
at least it's the people deciding.
Yeah. And like I said, that's the way that I view it, that we should have this very limited scope of when the death penalties...
And by my referendum, I mean people who have met that, been rightfully convicted.
Yep.
So, out of, I don't know how many criminals that come out of just Cook a year, but only one or two, maybe a year, would even reach the ballot.
Very few end up being death penalty, especially in Cook.
Oh yeah.
Because Cook has one of the DAs that constantly downgrades.
True. Well, I'm just using Cook as an example because it's a crime-ridden county.
Oh yeah, it is, but it's crime-ridden in large part because it fails to actually prosecute crime.
Yeah. I mean, when
people constantly overlook the utility of properly prosecuting and punishing crime. The reason why that decreases crime is when someone's in prison, they aren't victimizing the general population.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
if someone gets arrested for shoplifting, shoplifting might sound like a somewhat minor crime to a lot of people. But if they're prosecuted and they're held in prison for, I don't know how long, let's say 1.5 years.
Shoplifting might be, 18 months.
Yeah, so let's say 1.5 years for shoplifting. That means for 1.5 years, the person that was convicted of shoplifting is not shoplifting.
I'll go on another angle with that. Up in Canada, right now, drug-related offenses and offenses almost as a whole are barely criminalized almost nationwide. It has gotten to the point that in Vancouver, several police officers have stated on record that the people they bring in to perp often brag about, I'll be out by lunch.
Oh yeah, there was
and they are that emboldened.
There was the case of a guy in California earlier this year or last year where he was arrested 5 times in the same day.
Yeah. And my point is,
and
when criminals
another criminal that was convicted of 72 robberies.
Yeah, well, one of the most tragic events recently was guy got pushed onto the TTC subway tracks just as the subway was speeding in.
Yep.
With obvious effects.
Yep.
It was figured out that his most recent arrest was 72 hours previous, and that was his 5th violent arrest.
Yep. Hell, what's the guy's name? It's something Penny.
Yeah, well, you think... When
Lori Penny's the insane feminist, but
when criminals are that emboldened, they'll just do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, the New York...
brag.
No, I'm saying the New York subway case, where it was the military member, something Penny... Daniel Penny?
Oh, you're talking about that?
Daniel Penny's his name, right?
I know the case you're talking about, even if we don't know the name for certain off the top of my head.
But yeah, that guy restraining a violent, threatening hobo.
Mm-hmm.
And that hobo had been arrested several times for violent crimes. He should have been in prison.
Yeah. The state has felt one of its cardinal duties by...
Yeah, if he was in prison, any of the times that he should have been in prison, he wouldn't have died that day.
Yeah.
Because he would have been in prison, not fucking around on a subway, threatening people's lives. And we see this constantly of people with escalating violence within their crime or criminal record that are just constantly allowed out.
Yeah, and many people often say it's because they have rights. They have rights. They have rights. There's too often responses to that. Okay, we followed their rights. They were rightfully convicted, or they've been rightfully arrested and gone through the system. And the other response, and I think it's the one that you'll resonate with more, they gave up the rights when they stole them from another person.
Oh yeah. It's the thing that drives me crazy every time that I hear people's lives are worth more than property. Well, they decided that their life wasn't.
Yeah.
Because if I say, hey, if you try to take my property, then I'm gonna handle you accordingly.
Mm.
Then, if someone tries to take my property and I handle them accordingly, going, well, you shouldn't have viewed their life as less than your property. Well, no. The thing is that they viewed their life as worth less than my property. Because if I say that if you try to take my property, your life is forfeit, and you know, I'm going to try to take your property, you've decided your life is worth less than my property.
And at that point, you're just acting in kind.
Yeah. Who am I to argue with your assessment of your own life? I don't fucking know you. You decided that your life is
even
worth
people
less
that don't
this.
actively warn people, like the no trespassing signs.
Yep.
Trespassers will be shot. Blah blah blah. The idea that property is worth less than a person's life, on the surface, as a rhetorical argument, is sound. But once you get into the deep,
it sounds sound. I won't say it is sound, because it isn't. It sounds sound. And there's a distinct difference between those 2 points.
What I was saying is, property rights are considered a cornerstone of modern civilization.
Yep.
And to violate those violates the careful order that civilization is built upon. And if that order fragments, a lot more than one criminal's life will be in jeopardy.
Yep.
I mean, several TV shows, several philosophers have often said that all civilization is one empty dinner plate away from complete destruction.
Yeah. People tend to write when they're hungry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this constant thread that drives me up the fucking wall. And there's so many points that are absolutely infuriating. There was a Scribe stream ages ago where he was going over one of the TED Talks. That it was someone who was a person that worked in corrections.
Great.
They weren't a corrections officer. They were someone that worked in the psych department in corrections. And they made some valid points, but they also, throughout the entire fucking speech, were giving off clear signs of, this is an offender fucker. Where it wasn't even a doubt in my mind that they were sucking, fucking, and smuggling.
I'm trying to get
What
the
time
amount.
is it?
It's 12:30.
Okay. So,
It's around time.
yep, it does seem like we're somewhat winding down though, and that it has reached that point. Give him a nudge.
He's
Adam, you've zonked out. Are you waking up?
Yeah, because I don't know how to shut down OBS.
Adam. Inquisitor's going to be coming in.
Yeah,
So,
to help us shut down the...
do you have any parting words, Donkey?
I guess it all comes down to the golden rules. Treat others and others' property the way you wish yourself and your property wish to be treated, and you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Inquisitor, do you want to give any parting words?
Motherfucking, anyone comes and tries to steal my shit, I'm gonna send you home in a box.
Yeah.
I own several guns, bitch. Try it.
Like I said earlier, when someone tries to take my shit, they've decided their life is worth less than my property.
Yes.
And I'll leave off with my standard of, if you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you. And Adam is still... Adam, you awake?
No, he's fine.
Nah, he's still kind of zonked. So, with that, I'll say goodnight. The zoo is closed. Have a good night, all.
Good night, everyone.
Night.